French meringues are beautiful, delicious, and easy to make. And if you've been wanting to learn how to make meringue pops, meringue cookies, or even pavlovas, then this is the recipe for you. So you've seen a few ideas for what you can do with meringues. Now let's learn how to make them. So we're going to start out using 4 egg whites, and I'm separating them into a small bowl and then adding them to my mixture. Now, if you're wondering why we're doing it this way, it's because I'm about to dump an entire egg yolk right into my whites, and it just saves you from spoiling your whole batch when you make a mistake and get some egg yolk into your whites. So I salvaged it and I added it to my bowl. We can't have any fat in this mixture, otherwise the eggs are not going to whip up nicely. So the fat from the yolk, any kind of oil residue on your mixer bowl or on your whip attachment can deflate your meringues. So if you use egg yolks in any other recipes, then by all means save those yolks. And if you're somebody who uses yolks and has a collection of whites, then you can use this recipe by weight. This is 5 ounces of egg whites. I'm also adding 1.33 cups of sugar, or 13 ounces, and I'm going to add that to the whites. But before we start whipping it, I'm going to place my mixer bowl over onto a pot of steaming water and whisk my egg white mixture to warm it up and start to dissolve some of that sugar. You can see me kind of testing the mixture by rubbing my fingers together in it and seeing if there's any grittiness still in the meringues, just trying to dissolve as much of the sugar as we can before we get going. So this is such a versatile recipe, and it's not only easy to make different designs with to color and flavor, but it also is extremely forgiving with the mixing. So I'm gonna put it on medium speed and let it whip, and you really cannot overmix egg whites once you have the sugar added. The key is to get the sugar in and just whip the heck out of it. I've literally watched a French pastry chef go on his lunch break with the mixer running full of egg whites. And yeah, you just can't overmix it. So anyway, we are pulling out some flavors and some colors and getting ready to pipe some beautiful designs here. And I've let mine go at medium speed for about 25 minutes while I prepare my pastry bag. So I'm using a really large pastry bag. It's a 16-inch, and the reason I like to use really big pastry bags for piping with meringue is because it's so sticky, and you don't want to have this stuff oozing out the top and getting all over your hands because it's a mess. So I like the big bag, and now I've pulled out a variety of tips. Some of them, they're all star shapes. Some of them are more open, some of them are closed at the top, and you can adjust yours by just kind of putting a pen tip in there and making them different opening sizes. And it helps the finished product to just pipe a little bit differently. So if you drop your pastry tip into your bag, you can make an indentation where the middle of the tip hits, and then cut your pastry bag so that the tip has enough room to fit through the opening, but not so much that the meringue is going to squeeze out through the bottom. Now you can see that the meringue is done here because when I pull the beater away, it makes a stiff peak that gently folds over at the top. And now is when we're going to add our flavoring and our color. So in this example, I'm just using vanilla, but you can use any type of flavoring that's not oil-based, which would be some of the Lorraine flavorings are wonderful. Champagne is delicious. Strawberry flavoring is delicious. Bubblegum, cotton candy, the sky's the limit. Just make sure it's not an oil-based flavor. Now, I start out by taking out my amount of white. I'm kind of going to divide this in thirds. So I took about 1/3 of it out as a white meringue, and then I've added some drops of the Chef Mate Rose Pink, and I've just kind of incorporated it in there. You want to go a little bit darker than the final shade that you want, because when you bake these in the oven, they do lose a little bit of their color. So I kind of liked that shade of pink, but I'm going to go just a couple drops darker just to make sure that my pink still shows up after these meringues are baked. So now I'm gonna portion out the second third of this meringue batter and place it into my bag. You can see I've got plenty of bag folded over my hand so I don't get all of that stickiness all over me. Now I'm going for a sort of a mauve pink, and I'm still staying with that. I'm adding more color to the pink that I made, and I'm adding a little bit of red and just a dollop of black. And that's gonna make a mauve color. And I like using the same original pink and then adding to it because it kind of makes your shades match and not just clashing. So start light and then go darker and create whatever colors you want. One batch is gonna make about 15 of these meringue pops, and 3 colors is a good variety to get some different color and texture going on with the different tips. Now let's get ourselves ready to make the centerpiece meringue pop, which is that big heart-shaped one that I'm doing for Valentine's Day. So I'm using these 10-inch skewers and I'm snipping off that pointy tip because I don't think that's a good idea for anybody to be putting in their mouth, and I don't want that liability. So I'm snipping off the tip there, and I'm using a heart cutter as my guide. Remember that you're gonna want the stick coming down from the bottom, the triangle part of the heart. So you wanna trace the heart on your paper with room for the stick to come down from the point of the heart. So I'm just laying it out on my parchment, making sure that I have room to pipe the hearts and enough room for those sticks to come out because we're baking these with the sticks in them. And I'm making sure that this fits on my sheet pan. And then I'm laying a piece of parchment over the top of that, so we're not piping directly onto the Sharpie color. And I just sort of glued my second piece down so that it stays put. Now, I'm gonna apologize in advance. My camera angle here doesn't always show what my pastry tip is doing, but I think it's enough so that you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm using the template underneath to begin to fill in this heart-shaped design. And on this first one, I'm laying down lots of different colors and then layering in lots of texture. You'll see me do the second one slightly differently, and you can do either method that works for you. So I'm just rotating all my colors to fill in the empty space, and then I'm coming back in and piping in any kind of, floret or swirl that I need to make sure that there's no gaps. So we want this thing to be sturdy and not break once it's dried. So that's one method. Now here, method 2, I'm going in with one color. I'm filling in and I'm just doing little swirls. This entire thing is just little swirls. Now I'm coming over the top of it with some more color. There's that mauve color. And the end of it doesn't really pull in the way I wanted it to. So you can take a toothpick or the end of a skewer, just kind of poke it back in the way you want it to go. So I feel like the color shows more in this one, but they both are so pretty. It really doesn't matter. These are very forgiving, and you really don't have to have very advanced pastry or piping skills here. We're just swirling. And I'm just kind of dolloping in to get some color and contrast. And here are our 2 different centerpiece cake pops. Now, meringue pops. So now I'm just gonna do a variety of different pops here just to create some fun assortment. So for these ones, I'm going to be trying to fit 3 on a tray. And I just am laying out my sticks to make sure that I have room to pipe and everything's gonna fit. So for this is just a rosette swirl, and I go around and bring the tip back in. You can see a little bit better on this one. So I'm going to start working from the center, applying medium pressure, swirl around, and then pull it in on itself so that you really can't see the ending. This is a different tip. It's a little bit more ruffly, and I drag the tip through the meringue just a little bit to kind of fill in the meringue pop. Now, I still have some meringue left in my pastry bags. So I'm going to do sort of a sucker on this one. And I'm just going side to side like a pretzel stick kind of, and piping down these sticks to use up any of the remaining meringue that I have in my pastry bag. So I've got a couple of pink ones, a couple of white ones, and that's going to help us to make a beautiful assortment at the end. I had a little bit left and I added some green coloring to it, and a little bit of meringue left. I added some green coloring, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a leaf design to create some contrast on those rosettes. These ones are my favorite. I just love these. So you can't see it very well here, but it is a leaf tip, and I'm just doing just a little tiny accent leaf right at the base of the stick and the pop. And I think it just gives it a nice little bit of color contrast. Now we're going to bake these in a 200-degree oven for 2 hours, and then we're going to turn the oven off and leave them in for 2 more hours. My oven actually goes down to 175, and that works even better. Now here are the finished products. I think they look so good. The key is to keep your oven at a very low temperature and let them dry out all the way. And now I'm assembling these as a bouquet, which is absolutely stunning. I just love the way these look together. This is a 6x9 cellophane bag, and I'm just assembling them flat on the table the way I want them to look in the bouquet. And now I'm going to show you how to wrap that bouquet to make it look even more special. So I have 2 sheets of tissue paper, folding them as a triangle, and up at the top, I'm splitting the tip of the triangle to offset the tissue just a little bit. Now I'm going to set the arrangement between those 2 tips and wrap it like a bunting. So fold one side up, fold the other side up, and then we're going to come in with our Valentine's ribbon and tie a knot to secure the whole thing. And now we're going to tie a bow. Here is my bow tying trick. You want to put the direction that you want the tails of the bow to go at the top, so that you are tying upside down, and then your tails will go the way you want them to. And here's the finished product. I think these are just stunning. I think you could sell these like crazy for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. They're just wonderful. Now, you don't have to be that fancy. You can also pipe these as meringue cookies. And these are just, we're just piping cookies with these. If you do it this way, the recipe will give you about 40 of these. And be sure and check out the pricing tutorial to know how to price them. Here's an example of a few of the different types of meringues that you can make with this recipe. It's so versatile. Color it how you want, shape it how you want, bundle it how you want. These are just an example of what you can do with this recipe. I hope you enjoy.